Hello, hello, hello. On behalf of the Church of St. George of Greater Philadelphia, we welcome you guys to our online lessons. Now, we know that the coronavirus has kept us in our homes and kept us from going to church and maybe learning and growing within the church, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn and grow outside of church. Maybe this is a great time to reflect with your family, become closer to your family. Maybe now you can gain new skills, new things that you've never learned before, and more so, and the most important of all, is learning to have a relationship and love God, just like He loves you. In fact, St. Paul tells us in his gospel that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Now, today we are learning about the fifth Sunday of Lent. Pause your video and I'd like to see if you know what the fifth Sunday of Lent is. Do you know it? Do you? Do you? Okay, well, the fifth Sunday of Lent is the paralyzed man. Paralyzed meaning you cannot walk or move or do anything with your body, okay? This is a very interesting lesson, and I hope that you guys all gain something from it. All right, to begin, we'll start with our main character, always the main character, always the best person in our lives, Jesus Christ. One day, Jesus Christ went up to Jerusalem, and he decided to go to this place called Bethesda. Bethesda had a pool, and the name of Bethesda actually meant Sheep's Gate. By this pool, there were many different types of people. Now, they weren't the most able-bodied people. A lot of them were blind, a lot of them were lame, a lot of them were paralyzed. A lot of them had many sicknesses and many things that were troubling them within their bodies. But why were they there? I want you to pause the video for a second and think to yourself, why were they there? Why were they at the pool of Bethesda? Was there something that could heal them? Let's see. Now that you've unpaused the video, I want to talk about what happened at the pool of Bethesda every once a year. Now, every once a year, there was an angel that went down to this pool, but it was only once a year. And what they did was stir the pool, and whoever jumped in the pool first was granted healing. So if the blind man jumped in the pool, then he was healed from his blindness. He could see. If the lame man jumped into the pool, he could walk. And if the paralyzed man jumped into the pool, he can move his body around. Isn't that pretty cool? I think it's pretty cool. But today we want to focus on a specific man. He was paralyzed. And guess how many years he had this disease? Pause the video and see if you can maybe figure out how many years this man had this disease. He was paralyzed for 38 years. If you ask me, 38 years is a really, really long time. That's older than me, and I'm betting that it's older than you. So he is sitting there by the pool of Bethesda waiting for this angel to come down and stir the pool so he can jump in. But sadly for the old man, he didn't have anybody to put him into the pool every once a year when the angel came. So he didn't have any chance. And this man waited every year and he sat by the pool, but never had anybody to push him in. So guess whose path he crosses with? Yeah, you guessed it. It's Jesus Christ. And when Jesus saw him lying there, he knew that he had this condition for so long, and he asked him one question. He said, "Do you want to be made well?" And the paralyzed man told him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me." Now, Jesus' answer to this was kind of funny. He said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." He didn't say, "Okay, I'll heal you now." He said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." I want you to just think about that for a moment and what that means to you. And we'll come back to that later on in this video. But as you could guess, the man immediately got up, took his bed, and walked. It was a miracle. But that day was the Sabbath, and you know what that means. The bullies come out on the Sabbath. Yeah, you're right. That means the Jews. The Jews had this law on the Sabbath that the day has to be for rest. It was one of the things that God commanded them in the Old Testament, and it was very, very important to them that nobody does anything. And they said that it is not right that anybody should heal anyone on the day of the Sabbath because it is a day of rest. So the Jews went to this man and asked him, "It isn't right for you to carry your bed, especially on the day of the Sabbath." And the man answered him, and he said, "He who made me well said to me, 'Take up your bed and walk.'" Then they asked him, "Who is this man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the man had no idea who it was that healed him from his paralysis. Lucky for the paralyzed man, he ran into Jesus at the temple, and Jesus said to him, "See, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you." And the man left and told all the Jews who was the one that healed him from his paralysis. Now that we have finished, I want to know what you learned from the story. Yes, you, I'm talking to you. This could be anything that you've learned, anything at all. I want you to write it down. And another thing I want you to do is memorize a verse for me. The verse will be, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." This is found in John 5:8. So I'm going to repeat it one more time, and maybe pause the video and say it after me, and take a couple times on your own to say it to yourself. Here we go. Rise, take up your bed, and walk. John 5:8. Before I send you off, I want to tell you what I learned. Before Jesus healed the paralyzed man, he asked him a question. He asked him, "Do you want to be made well?" And when the paralyzed man answered him and said, "Sir, I have no one to push me in," he didn't say anything such as, "Why are you making all of these excuses? Why haven't you had anybody to push you in? I don't think I can heal you because you've made such a bad excuse to me." But God doesn't need an explanation. He didn't tell him, "Okay, I'll heal you." He healed him right away. He said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." There was no explanation from the man needed so that Christ can heal him. And another thing that we can learn is that we also have to be willing to be made well too in our relationships with God. This is what I learned, but I want to know what you learned. And I also want to hear your voices, and I want to see you. So with that being said, I have a little task for you, and see if you could get it done. As servants, we definitely, for sure, miss seeing your beautiful faces and hearing your lovely voices. So I wanted you to try something, and you don't have to do this, but I wanted you to take a video of yourself saying the memory verse from memory, of course, no cheating. Then do one of the three things below. You could sing one of these songs. weeks of Lent, Evlogimenos, O Beloved, or Night of the Last Supper. All I'm asking for is a little bit of one of them. If you don't like that option, you can tell me one thing you learned from the story. And if you don't like that option, show me some craft you've done with the story or some piece of artwork that you've done. Once you do this, I want you to send the video to us. I want to see your faces, and we want to compile it into our group and show everybody all the good work that you're doing. You could either send this video to me, Mary Abraham, to Andrew Labib, or to Ines Ataya through Facebook Messenger, or maybe through text, but probably through Facebook Messenger. Below, I will add a list of links to the songs that we've mentioned in this video. I will list a link for a quiz that goes along with this, and you can also submit that on Messenger of Facebook. And finally, I will list a link to the St. George Coptic Orthodox Church of Greater Philadelphia group on Facebook. Now, before I go, I just want to tell you that on behalf of all the servants, we miss you and we love you, but most importantly, God loves you. Bye.